And from the famous author who wanted to grow up to be a fire dog Dalmatian. This is the first one on me. Oh, my God. This is absolutely...
That is a proud dog, a working dog.
I think this is awesome. Are you kidding me? I love Dalmatians. Now, I didn't even get a chance to tell folks that we are with the famous Chelsea Cain of the critically acclaimed New York Times bestselling Archie Sheridan and Gretchen Lowell thrillers, but... she has a brand new series coming out. But let me tell you first, Chelsea, you had me won over when in your earlier days you wanted to become a semi-professional mourner at funerals and a homespun pet mortician. It was the shoe-lined box with toilet paper that connected me to your heart. I'm telling you, we have a connection, you and I.
Did you have a pet cemetery as a kid?
Yes.
Or do you now?
Unbelievable.
You only wish you had a pet cemetery.
Oh,
yeah, I buried animals for the whole neighborhood for a couple of years there. There's a yard in Bellingham, Washington that I'm sure one day will be excavated and they will rope it off as a crime scene.
All those birds, all those little critters. Oh, God. What a refreshing honor it is to welcome you to the WBSM audience. We've been waiting for you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Where are you right now, by the way?
Well, I'm in Portland, Oregon. I'm in the attic of my house, and I'm sitting on the floor because my phone is not fully charged, so I had to plug it in, and so I have to, my charger cord isn't very long, so I basically huddled against the wall. My head sort of pressed against the baseboard next to the outlet so that I could talk to you. So you can just picture that.
I want a selfie. Oh, my goodness. Chelsea.
Except my phone is charged, and then I can't take a picture.
Welcome. It is such a pleasure to have you on you are so, I use the word refreshing, unpredictable. You really are. I love your style.
Thank you. That is a great compliment. I like that adjective, unpredictable. It's probably pretty apt.
Well, anyone who picks up dead birds and puts it in her lunchbox, I mean, come on.
Right, and then in my bio on the internet. That's what really makes me unpredictable. Telling the story of it.
Well, you have a brand new series coming out. Tell us all about this.
Well, it is out. It came out. It will be out a week tomorrow. It will have been out a week.
Okay.
On Tuesday. So it came out on the 19th. And the first book is called One Kick, and it is about a young woman named Kick Lanigan, who is 21, and her backstory is that she was abducted as a kid and then rescued 5 years later. And so now she is 21, and she basically teams up with this enigmatic, wealthy, mysterious stranger, and the two of them set about rescuing kids.
Now, how did you come up with the Kick Lanigan?
With the name or with the...
Both. With everything about Kick Lanigan. The story, the idea, the character, everything.
I had been trying to come up with another series because my plan had always been to write multiple thriller series. Because how hard could that be, right? But I couldn't come up with any characters that I liked as much as the characters I was writing about in the series I was writing, and so I kept kind of doing these chapters, exploring when I had a minute these characters who never really felt fully formed and were quickly abandoned, and then I came up with the idea of Kick. Kind of based on the Elizabeth Smart, J.C. Dugard model, right?
Sure.
The story is so compelling.
Yeah.
And just such a kind of kind of perfect narrative, right? Like these girls who we all thought were dead and who reappeared and were kind of resurrected. And and we all, like, it was so celebrated. Like, I felt so emotional when both of those girls were rescued. And but I also wanted to know kind of like what happened after the happy ending. I wanted what happened next, and I wanted to sort of imagine like Elizabeth Smart, but like with black leather pants and ninja stars, seeking justice. And I also, my other series is kind of it's a twisted love story between a cop and a serial killer. This really beautiful, charismatic serial killer named Gretchen Lowell, who has become much more of a phenomenon than I had imagined. Like, she is the character many people connect with more than the detective, and she kills people. But so many like young women would come up to me and say, like, I find Gretchen Lowell so inspiring. Or even they would get tattoos with Gretchen Lowell, and I thought, like, wow. I mean, that's kind of scary.
Absolutely.
She's the antagonist. But at the same time, like, she was such a strong character, is such a strong character. And I started thinking, like, I want to write a female character who is really capable and isn't riddled with self-doubt, right? I think that's what appeals to women with Gretchen Lowell, is that she might be a psychopath, but she knows what she wants.
Yes,
and that is weirdly rare in pop culture for a lot of reasons. So I wanted to write a strong character.
Chelsea, I know you're the kind of thinker that probably has already imagined yourself being kidnapped and what you would do to just survive, and the kind of you have to play a double life. You have to play one foot in the world that you're in with the kidnapper, and the other foot in the real world of how the hell do I get out of this? How do I escape? So that is very, very brilliant. I think it's very interesting. People will like this.
It's one of the appeals. I think appeals makes it sound like they were actually like television shows, but the actual, like, when the abduction stories. One of the things that I think captures our attention is just consumers of media. Why those cases get followed so closely. One, it's so close to home. We think, like, oh, what if my kid or sister? Like, what if something happened?
Right.
And also we think, wow, like, what would I do?
Yeah.
Like both, like J.C. Dugard and Elizabeth Smart, they adapted to survive.
Sure.
If they hadn't, they wouldn't have. But that also comes with its own baggage, and I think it's interesting, to sort of think about. But at the same time, I really wanted to write a book that would appeal to a broader audience than my other series, which is pretty dark and has a reputation for being pretty scary.
Yeah.
So somehow I thought child abduction. Now that a lot broader. Like, everybody loves child abduction, right?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, my.
Anyway, I try.
Chelsea Cain, our special guest, presenting the first in a new and exciting and edgy series featuring a character you'll really like by the name of Kick Lanigan. I love the name Kick. Kick Lanigan.
She was named after Kathleen Kennedy, who is one of JFK's elder sisters who died in a plane crash in the 40s. And I read, like, as in middle school, one of those, like, Dynasty of the Kennedy paperbacks.
Yeah.
Some 800-page book on the entire Kennedy family.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through that phase. And I read about Kick. They called her, Kick was her nickname, and I loved it as a kid.
Yeah.
I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna use that one day. And when I sat down and came up with this character, immediately I thought, like, that is the name she will use, Kick.
Chelsea, tell me, when in the beginning you say that there's this mysterious, very wealthy stranger who asks Kick to help him find two missing kids. Now, what's their first meeting like? Kind of describe that meeting, because this is the start of a relationship, right?
Right. Well, she's in a towel. And she gets out of the shower. She hears a noise, pretty cute. She hears a noise in her apartment, and it's kind of this bouncing, like this repetitive thump, and she being hyper vigilant and trained in martial arts and in marksmanship and in knife throwing and in lock picking. Like, she's an escape artist and a self-defense expert because she has trained herself to be safe in the world. She goes to investigate, and she finds this stranger sitting in her apartment very comfortably. And they have an interaction, and she immediately, trains her weapon on him. And there's an exchange of power that happens probably 10 times during that chapter.
Yeah.
Like, who is the power in that room? But in the end, she agrees to go with him for a lot of very complicated reasons to find these kids. And, that relationship, and I've always loved that kind of classic, I guess, romantic comedy relationship where you have the two people where right away you're like, oh, they hate each other. Oh, they're totally going to end up together.
Yep.
Waiting for it to happen. So I wanted to kind of try that within the thriller genre and, give them this charisma and rapport. But it's also really complicated because Kick is this backstory that makes relationships complicated, and she doesn't trust people. And Bishop doesn't treat her as a fragile object. And she's not used to that, and she likes it because she's so used to people being so careful around her, which would, I think, become really exhausting.
Yeah.
And certainly make dating difficult.
Now, and by the way, folks, if you haven't yet, pick up a copy of One Kick, Chelsea Cain's newest, in a brand new series coming out. And Chelsea, tell us about this. You were talking about a wide skill set that Kick has to learn to stay safe. What is she able to do?
Anything I need her to.
But
she's an expert at getting out of jams, and also it's sort of two categories: the self-defense aspect of it, and then the escape artist aspect of it. And she practices and works really hard at it. And she's always working on picking. One of the things she does when she is nervous is she handcuffs herself and picks the lock with a paper clip. She's just always practicing that, instead of knitting. Some people knit, right, when they're nervous.
Yeah.
Do something with their hands.
Yeah.
She does that, but with handcuffs. And I had this idea when I first conceived of that, of all of these skills she would have. One, I thought this will make her so capable, right? Because she's 21, she's young. There's a lot about her that doesn't have authority.
Yeah.
But she will have so much authority in all these various areas. And I also thought, Chelsea Cain will have to learn all of these skills, and I will be so awesome, right?
Yeah.
And I pictured myself in the leather pants with the throwing star. I pictured myself at the gun range with headphones and the safety goggles, at the beginning of some 80s TV show,
right?
rolling over cars, and it was this great montage that played out in my head for 15 minutes, and I didn't really do any of it.
I want to stay with Kick for a second. She's gone through a whole lot in her life. Tell us a little bit about her demons.
Well, she spent 5 years. With her abductor.
Yeah.
And he is now in prison. And their relationship, he is not a good person, obviously.
Right.
And he is responsible for a lot of very dark things in Kick's past, but he also, was a father figure to her, at an important period of her life, and so she's very conflicted about exactly who he is to her and how she should feel about him. It's not black and white.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In fairy tales, I know that sometimes we end up having a soft spot for the abductor. It's kind of a paradox, but what is Kick's?
Yeah, it's not quite Stockholm syndrome. But
right.
I realized that if you take a kid, right, who's 6 years old, right, and that kid is abducted, raised by another family for 5 years.
Yeah.
You can take that kid out of that family, but from 6 to 11, those are pretty formative years.
Sure.
And
they're never the same.
I think that you have to respect the fact that there's going to be some complication there, and not only that, but the Kick's relationship with her biological family, her true family, is very difficult because she had to, she was gone, and then suddenly had to re-enter. as this, kind of different person.
Yeah.
And so her relationship with her mother, who became this sort of celebrity, abduction victim, mother, was doing all the talk shows, and wrote a book, and her identity was sort of swirling around the fact that she had this kid who was missing, and so exploited, you could say, that tragedy in many ways, and then now Kick came back and had a very hard time readjusting to her family.
How about her father?
There'll be a lot moving forward with the series in terms of just the kind of episodic adventures that Kick and Bishop will have, but also just the kind of healing that is still moving forward as Kick just adjusts to being back in the world.
Yeah, it seems as if you're giving a little bit more attention to the mother's actions that seem to help shape her more than her father's. Her father MIA for the most part? Yeah, for now. Yeah. That's gonna be in the second book. We'll learn more about him. Yeah. Well, and folks, if you're just joining us, I can't tell you what a thrill it is to be with one of America's most unpredictable, I think one of the most refreshing authors. You truly love storytelling, Chelsea Cain. I love the way you tell stories. Chelsea has a brand new, you bet. You have a new exciting series featuring a character, folks, that you're going to love. Her name is Kick Lanigan, and you need to go out and read this before you go back to school, especially.
Everyone will be talking about it.
Absolutely. What? You know what? You were mentioning Elizabeth Smart, and I'm wondering right now, I wonder what Elizabeth Smart is doing today. What is her psychological state like every day when she goes to work and goes to bed and lives life today, years after being abducted? What is Kick's view of life after being raised?
Well, that's it's that very question. It was me wondering that same thing about Elizabeth Smart that made me write this book, honestly, because Elizabeth Smart seems like she has everything, like she seems so together. You see her, and she's married. She wears, cashmere cardigans and pearls, and she's got excellent posture.
Yeah.
She always just seems, just so, how do you go through that and just not, lose your mind?
Yes,
and,
yes.
And, who knows what's going on in her head? And I guess that's the question, right?
Yeah, that is the question.
I wanted to kind of, create an avatar and explore that, because I think that it's not a simple answer. But I think that I liked the idea of that character, right? Not only coming back, but then kind of using the experience to save other kids. And Elizabeth Smart, I think, is doing that in the sense that she gives talks and she does some correspondent work. In terms of speaking out on behalf of kids in her, who experienced her situation, and just talk, children who are in danger.
Yeah.
And Kick just does that in a much more visceral sense, where she's actually actually kicking indoors.
Chelsea, I want you to hold that thought, because in a little while I want to return to that thought in a real sense. But there's something about you as a person, you as a soul, that really has something special about rescuing people. Yeah, I know it. What is it? What makes you tick there?
I wish I could tell you. I have noticed that as well. But I see not only there's this relationship between captor and captive that I seem to explore in everything I write. I think it would probably take 10 years of therapy or perhaps 100 more books.
Therapy.
Probably if I could tell you the answer, I wouldn't need to write the book. But even as a kid, I was, I was 8 years old, right, in 1980, when Ed Pass was abducted and murdered in New York City. And he was the first kid they put on the side of a milk carton.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was a kid, we drank milk at lunch.
Yeah.
We drank it out of cartons, right, with the pictures of dead children
Yes.
on the side.
Yes.
I mean, I remember going to the dairy aisle and seeing like all those pictures and how it was, they were like trading cards in the sense that we all kept our eyes open for the new one. Like when there'd be a new picture, you would notice it, and I would note it, and I would always go to the dairy aisle and I would memorize those faces, and I would look for those kids. Like I actively, in crowds, I would keep my eye out for them.
Wow.
And it was just this period in the 80s. It was just a couple of years when they put kids on milk cartons, and before they realized that it was just really freaking all the other kids out, and they stopped. But there was suddenly stranger danger with this big thing, and there were all these stranger danger assemblies, and 911 was implemented. So we all, had suddenly people telling us how to use 911, and there was this kind of turn on a dime from the 1970s of just like, go run and, come back when it's dark.
Yes.
Just suddenly it seemed like, as a child, overnight, we were supposed to be afraid of vans. Like if you saw a van.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and I think that I'm trying to work something out from my childhood having to do with that. And I always felt safe in the world, probably to a fault, frankly. Overly confident in the same way I think Kick does that because she's made herself feel so safe. She gets herself into jams because she gets herself into situations that she really isn't capable of dealing with.
Right.
But I think because I felt safe and yet was told constantly that I lived in an unsafe world, that there was a tension between those two realities.
Sure.
Even as a kid, I was very fascinated by.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I walked around looking for dead bodies. But some kids look for treasure.
Yep, that's right.
I walked the beach, standing in waves for a corpse, and was disappointed every time I didn't find one.
But I think
I just loved the mysteries. I wanted to solve a mystery more than anything.
I think that was the birthplace of your genius as you share it with us now. So in lieu of...
If I found a dead body as a kid, I probably never would have become a writer.
In lieu of therapy, one dead bird in a shoebox with toilet paper will do.
Oh, there were like 13 of them. Yeah. I have a 9-year-old daughter now, and I think of her like if she came home from school like with a dead bird in her arm, I would care. I needed more supervision.
Oh my God! Oh my goodness! There are so many accolades to pour your way on this launch of your new nail biting series featuring Kick. I do want to ask you though about Bishop. That this is the guy who insists that she helps find these two kids. There's something about Bishop that I don't know. He has dark corners in his own mind as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely. And he says to her, he tells her that he's this former weapons dealer. And therefore, has all of this money and power.
Yep.
But now he doesn't like guns, but he's sort of devoted to rescuing kids, but we don't know why.
Yeah.
He seems to have all these connections. We don't know why. People owe him favors. He kind of... I loved Charlie's Angels as a kid. And the Charlie figure. He's kind of the Charlie figure.
Interesting.
And then also, mostly my work references like 70s and 80s TV shows. Like Magnum P.I. had Robin Masters, right?
Yeah.
Mysterious, like author, benefactor.
Yeah.
Who, Higgins, like then later we thought, well, maybe Higgins, the butler, was Robin Masters. And there's always this back and forth. Is Higgins Robin Masters really, and Robin Masters is just this, figment of Higgins' his imagination. I just really liked playing with the idea of who is this guy, what are his motivations, and what are his secrets.
Yes.
Like, all of my books seem to really just be interested in all of the stuff that happened before the books even start.
Yep.
They always pick up kind of after the thing and then move forward and peel away at intentions. I really am a fan of the sort of slow, constant reveal, so that we're looking, we're presented with a situation and with people, we're given information about them, and then my job then is to kind of change the lens on that, like to step sideways with the camera,
Yep.
A foot every chapter, so that we're always looking at those people with new information that changes,
Yes.
maybe who we think they are and what we think of their motivations, and then therefore what we think of what we've already seen. And I think that kind of interaction, with a story, I really like that as a reader. So I really try to do that in my own work.
A lot of your work takes place in Portland. How about here? How about this story?
Oh yeah, it takes place in Portland mostly.
Yeah.
It takes place also. There's scenes in Seattle and in San Diego. My idea was to have a lot more travel with this one, because they can go anywhere.
Yep.
And like whatever crime they need to solve. Whereas the other series has to really be much more rooted here, because it's hard to kind of explain why they would go anywhere else. Mm-hmm. But this one, they can get on a private jet and go somewhere. So if I have to travel and deduct it gives me a lot of options.
Yeah.
Always thinking.
Oh my God! What didn't I ask you about this new series, this great story that you'd like our audience to take away from the conversation?
Well, I want to reinforce, I guess, the fact that the book is about, it's a present day. It's Kick after her rescue and her abduction, and while it sounds like child abduction would be like too scary to read,
mm-hmm.
I really think that I made a real effort to not exploit that, and to to keep Kick a very strong and active character.
Yes,
that I think people will root for and will love, and that they don't have to be afraid, and the kids get rescued. Like the kids will always get rescued. I'm not gonna like not rescue a kid.
Right.
I'm a parent. Everybody will be fine. They're going to be menaced, and there will be probably some scary bits,
mm-hmm.
and some mayhem.
Yeah.
Possibly some savagery. But in the end, everybody will be very clever, and things will be fine, and it will be a tremendous, satisfying read. So please get a copy. First week sales. I have like one more day to sell another 1,000 copies. So I'm counting on everyone within the sound of my voice.
Yes. Applause, 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 applause.
I like you.
Oh, I like you too. Finally, Chelsea, and I'm glad you brought it to the real world, because children are abducted daily. Now, do you think Kick perhaps will set up, I don't know, a fund or somehow acknowledge this in the real world as kind of a crusader for children's abductions?
Do I think in the real world that she will be recognized as that?
Yeah. Do you think?
Whoa.
Aha.
The fictional world and the real world.
Aha.
I don't know.
Ha-ha. You never know.
That'd be cool, wouldn't it? She could do like PSAs on Saturday morning cartoons.
Absolutely. Wow, you get it. You get it.
I'm seeing action figures.
Yes.
Costumes.
Exactly. She could be a powerful force. Well, she already is, because she's one of your creations.
That's right.
How hot is it in the attic?
It's pretty hot. As I said, I'm on the floor, so it's the coolest part of the attic.
Oh, that's right.
But
That's
it's
right.
It's early here.
Oh, my God.
But yeah, it's getting hotter by the minute.
Oh, my God. Chelsea, you have all the gratitude that we can muster up and send out your way in a huge radio hug.
Oh, I feel it.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you for all that you've done to make this a better world through your genius, through all of your efforts. And you know what? We're going to love your new character and your new series.
Oh, thank you so much. Can I come on like every episode, every day? Could we just talk all day long on the radio every day?
Promise me you'll do that.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
As long as I can charge my phone first.
Take a selfie.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
We'll be doing this again soon for the next one. All righty.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.